What's going on, guys? My name is Lee Anthony, and this is the Life of Lee podcast. How you doing? This is episode one, and this will serve as an introduction to the series. Originally, I wanted to make a podcast primarily about psychedelics because I've had a lot of incredible personal experiences with psychedelics, life-changing experiences, like just I owe a lot to psychedelics. When I talk about psychedelics, I mean like mushrooms and DMT primarily. And I know a lot of people that do psychedelics and they've had great benefits from them, but they can't talk about them openly due to restrictions in their job or, apprehensions about what family or friends might think about them, that kind of stuff. And I personally don't have any of those restrictions. Like to put it in perspective, in September 2010, I tried to kill myself, and like I'd made up my mind that it was going to happen. And usually, when I make up my mind about something, I follow through on it. And I was saved at literally the last minute in such profound circumstances that from that day on, every day I wake up in the morning, it's overtime for me. Like for me personally, I was 100% sure that that was the day that I was going to die. I'd made my decision, and when I made that choice, it was such a release, and it was such an empowering thing because what I was going through at the time, I felt I had no control over it whatsoever. So this decision that I'd made was me taking control, the ultimate control, and it ended up not happening. And I questioned for a long time why it wouldn't happen because at this time in my life, I felt like I had seriously nothing, no skills, no talents, no potential, no nothing at all. And since 2010, I've managed, not even I've managed to achieve, I've just had circumstances delivered to me that have been incredible and miraculous. And in my eyes, they should never have happened because in my eyes, I was meant to die in 2010. Like I ended up working in Game of Thrones, and the scene that I was in, like I worked on most of season eight. I got to work in a lot of different scenes. Worked on both sides of the Battle of Winterfell. I got to see it was just great to be a part of the show. But there was one scene where I was a member of Golden Company and we were marching out and we kept hitting like missing our mark where we were meant to land. And I'm ex-military, so I ended up talking to the military advisor, and I says, "Look, if we need to land in that mark, I can give the command to halt because we couldn't hear at the front of the formation, we couldn't hear the command from the back. So, like, I get to give the command, and that shot ended up getting used. So, if I wasn't here, if I'd killed myself in 2010, Game of Thrones, the biggest TV show ever made, one scene in it would have been different, you know." And I didn't know that at the time, and that's one of the messages that I want to present through this podcast is if you are going through bad times and you do feel suicidal and you feel like you've got nothing, if you do go through with it, then that is a permanent solution to what is usually a temporary problem. And when I went through this, I had no idea what could where I would possibly end up. Um, and I've achieved some great things in the last 10 years. I ended up being engaged for 4 years to an incredible girl. I moved country. I lived in Northern Ireland, a beautiful little seaside town. I've acted in films. I've had some great opportunities to travel. I've met some great people. I've met people laugh. Sorry, I've made people laugh. People have made me laugh. There's been love. There's been adventure. There's been good times. And for me, this is all bonus time. Like every day since that day in September 2010 is extra for me, and I treasure every single moment of it. So originally, when I decided to make the podcast about psychedelics, I realized that in order to talk about psychedelics, I would need to go back and talk about what brought me to psychedelics, and that would be a long, long story. So I decided to just make the podcast literally chronicling my life up to this point, what's happening now, and where I go from here. And like, I love podcasts, I love vlogs, I love getting insight into people's lives and seeing what makes them tick, you know. Like Robert Downey Jr. was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking about how they feel like imposters at times, you know, like they're getting paid money to do just dream jobs and this kind of stuff. And I feel the same way. Any set that I've ever been on, be it a low budget amateur production or Game of Thrones or Avengers Infinity War, whatever I've worked on, there's always this part of me that's been waiting for the director to come up and go, "Who are you exactly? What do you think you're doing here? Like, how did you make it past security? Can we get this guy out of here? Because I feel like an imposter." So to hear Robert Downey Jr. open up and say that he feels that as well, it makes you feel better about yourself. And I feel the more insight that you get into other people's lives, like their fears, their apprehensions, what makes them tick, the more insight you get into your own life. Because there's been so many times, like, there's been weird little quirks that I've had, and I've thought that it must just be me that does that, and there's no way I could say to someone that I do this habit or blah blah blah, because they would think I was weird. And then you hear someone else nonchalantly saying, "Oh yeah, last night I've done blah 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 blah," and you think, "Holy shit, I do that I do that as well." Or they'll say, "Last night this thought popped into my head and it was so bizarre," and you think, "I've thought that stuff as well." Like, if you ever been walking down the street and someone's walking past you and you just think, kick him, drop kick him, just run up, drop kick him, see how far you can drop kick him, and you don't do it, but these thoughts just pop up into your mind. And if you go through these thoughts with, like, in isolation, you think it's just you that has these thoughts and you must be some kind of crazy. But the more you're open about just the most random things in your life, the more you realize that everybody goes through these thoughts. Like, one of my biggest philosophies in life is no one is any different or any better than anybody else. The way, like, what I've came to realize about life, and when I say this, it's my own personal experience. I'm not trying to be a guru. I'm not trying to say this is the way this is for everybody or everything. It's just my approach as a complete individual. I've been very lucky throughout my whole life. I've never been conditioned to, like, view the world as this. I was never raised to a religion. I was never raised to support a certain football team or to have bias towards these people or to not go there. Everything in my life I've tried to experience for myself without anybody else's input. And some things have been good, some things have been bad. But what I've realized for my life is, if you remove the words good and bad from any experience and just see it as an experience, it changes your whole perception of what's happening. Because good experiences, they make us happy. They're something that we pursue. Bad experiences, they make us feel sad, so we try and avoid them. But if you remove that terminology of something being good or something being bad and just see it as experience, it opens you up to enjoy life in a whole different perspective. And although some things do inherently seem good, badness can come out of that. And although some things inherently seem bad, goodness can come out of that. So there's always that polarity and that yin yang and that balance. And one of the I've thought this for a while, like, my only real talent in life is I can be incredibly open. I will be open about anything. I will talk about anything. I will be open to new situations. I'll be open, just open. And that has taken me to some incredible places. And the things that I've achieved, it's not really me that's achieved any of this stuff. It's basically circumstances have just opened up in front of me. Like, when my free like I trained parkour and free running. I've trained that for 13 years. And when my team got sponsored by Puma, like, I know a lot of athletes who train their ass off every single day, and they deserve to be professional athletes. They deserve sponsorship. We were just messing around in Glasgow one day, and one of, like, the Puma executives saw us, came over and spoke to us, and we ended up having, like, a merchandise sponsorship kind of deal just handed to us. It was the same when I started teaching parkour. Most other parkour teachers I know are certified and they have the ADAPT certification, which is a very, very difficult and thorough certification to achieve. And I knew that my physicality and my understanding of the discipline wasn't at the point of achieving that certification. But again, me and a guy I used to train with Jonesy, we were training in the park one day, and a representative of the council saw us, and he came over and he's like, "Oh, is that freestyling stuff you are doing?" Blah blah blah. And that ended up, we got offered a contract to teach parkour in 5 local high schools, and 2 of them took the contract further, and we ended up teaching there for like 3.5, 4 years. And I actually got to go back to my old school and teach a class there, which was surreal. Like, I did not enjoy high school, my school life. I was dealing with a lot of external stuff and I just couldn't focus. And after a certain point, I saw school as pointless. I really did. Like, once they taught me how to read, how to write, how to add, I kind of felt like, okay, I've got it from here. Like, I'll just take that and go out into the world. So I left school with no qualifications whatsoever. Um, and then I went straight into the army. Left the army 3 years later, went back into the army. Up to this point, I've had 37 jobs in 37 different industries. I've been telesales, retail sales, door-to-door sales. I've been a butcher. I've been an insurance consultant, factory worker, and that's 37 different working environments that I've worked in, 37 different sets of colleagues, 37 different roles that I had to play. And that's how I eventually got into acting. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be an actor, it's just that seemed the most logical outpouring for my experience up to this point. Um, and yeah, like, from other podcasters and vloggers and that kind of stuff, getting the insight into their lives and just picking up little nuggets of information that you wouldn't have known otherwise because you don't personally know that person, you're not going to run into them. Um, like, I just find little nuggets of advice, and like, there's a YouTuber I like, Matt Carica, who runs the Demolition Ranch YouTube channel, and he said this. He's got this philosophy: do one thing each day to make tomorrow better. And it's so simple. Like, I hate working out. I hate working out. I love parkour. I love training. I love moving. But actually working out, repetitions and just push-ups and pull-ups, it's boring and I hate it. But if I force myself to do that today, I'll be a little bit stronger tomorrow, you know? One of the biggest things to get into my mind, and this took me years, was get your work stuff ready the night before work. It's so simple, because running around in the morning, trying to iron stuff or trying to make sandwiches and that kind of stuff, it's a bad start to the day to be running around frantic and, chasing your own tail. So if you put in that 5 minutes of preparation the night before, it will make your next day so much easier. And when you've got an easy start to your morning, your day, the rest of the day goes much easier as well. So yeah, if I just feel like if I can tell my stories up to this point and then also chronicle where I go from here and give people insight into that, into the thought processes, into the fears and the anxieties that I have. Like, this year alone, like, I was in a band 7 years ago. Again, most people that are in bands, they practice instruments for years and then they meet people, like-minded people, they put a band together, they start writing music. I didn't do it that way. I met a guy, Gary, who's my dearest friend. He's a scientist and he's also got a degree in music. He's a phenomenal musician, and we started working together um, like 11 years ago. And he was in a band previously called Hangman Joe's, and he wanted to put it back together. And he said to me that if he wanted me to be in the band, and he says he would teach me guitar just so I could be in this band, because he wanted me to be in the band and he wanted my influence, and he just wanted to play music with me. And I still love him to this day, sorry, for giving me that opportunity and extending that chance to me, because we never gigged, the band never really went anywhere, but just showing up for practice each week and learning an instrument. I never thought that I'd be able to rock out, like you have visions, you play air guitar, you're singing in the shower, but I never thought it would actually be for me. And then, and also thought like, oh, I can't play guitar, I can't sing, but you can learn. Like anybody can really learn anything if you just really want to do it. And so many people will say like I'll tell people I'm an actor and they'll say, oh, I'd love to do that, but I just get too nervous. So do I. Anytime I've been on set, I have been terrified and I've found ways to overcome that. And if I can share that with someone and it means that they get to experience the same thing I do of being on set and seeing just some incredible, surreal stuff happening, then I want to give them that because for me, I feel the purpose for life is experience, to experience as much as you can, good, bad, putting yourself out there, getting outside your comfort zone, all this kind of stuff. Just experience as much as you possibly can before you die, because one day we are all going to be dead, every single person. And if you do something, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you do something or if you don't do something. So why wouldn't you go and do as much as you possibly can? And don't worry about people judging you or putting something out there and, oh, that's going to be like on the internet forever and people might see that. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, ultimately, our sun is going to explode in a couple of billion years and it is going to obliterate every trace that we ever existed. Every molecule that's made up every human ever is going to be gone. There's going to be no ultimate record of anything we have done in this realm. So go out and do whatever the fuck you want. Don't hurt anybody, like stick by morality, don't hurt anybody else. But if what you want to do doesn't hurt anyone, then do it. Follow it with your absolute heart. Go and chase down every single thing that pops into your head. I have failed at way more stuff than I've ever succeeded at. There's been stuff, new hobbies that I've wanted to get into, and I thought I'm going to be great at this, and I've completely failed. And it doesn't matter how hard I've tried, it's just failure after failure after failure. But there's also times where I've managed to just achieve things that I thought were impossible, and they've came out of nowhere. And like anyone can really do it as long as you stay as open as you possibly can. And yeah, I feel that I do have a lot to talk about, and I've got a unique point of view, and I've lived a very unique life, and it's not in any way a boasting kind of thing. I literally just want people to. We're all alive right now at this moment, and the way I see it, we are all one thing. The way I see it, consciousness originally was a cloud, and then the same way we've got rain clouds, rain cloud opens up, little raindrops come down, they hit the ground, they spend some time there, then they evaporate, they go back up, and they make one big cloud again. So for that little bit of time, they have the illusion of separation, but they're all made up of the exact same stuff. They all came from the same place, they all go to the same place, and then all return to the same place. One raindrop is no better than another raindrop. If one raindrop lands in a palace and the other one lands on a piece of dog shit, it's no different. It's the circumstance that's different. The raindrop isn't. So whenever, everything that I've done, you've done it as well. I'm just a reflection of you. You're just a reflection of me. Everybody is the exact same. And when you look out at the world with that kind of point of view, it really opens you up to a life of love. Because why would you want to inflict harm on anyone else? You're inflicting harm on yourself. It's that simple. Why would you want to put anyone down? You're just putting yourself down. And anytime you encourage someone to go out and achieve something, it's you that's achieving that vicariously through them or by osmosis through them. But ultimately, we all came from the same place. We've came down to experience as much as we can, and then we all just take that experience back up. So yeah, if I can share my experience and like one of the things that drove this as well, I'm sorry, this is quite rambly, I know. I'm just eventually there'll be more structure, and I want to make each episode talking about a specific topic, but this will just serve as the introduction, and it's more just going to be like a stream of consciousness delivery, and you can just stitch it together yourselves. So yeah, I remember I wrote two guys that I knew, and I wasn't the closest to them, but like I knew him, and they committed suicide in within quite a short space of each other. And it got me thinking about like my suicide attempt, and I'd already had some stuff happen by then that was like remarkable, like stuff that I was just so thankful that I'd stuck around for. And I wrote a post on Facebook, and I wasn't trying to like encourage anybody to talk or to open up. I was just frustrated at the fact that, people are taking their own lives, and it's not for silly reasons, but for, like I say, temporary problems are making people have like really permanent solutions, and things can only get better if you stick around here. So I wrote this big Facebook post, and I put it out, and like thanks to parkour and acting and that kind of stuff, I've got random people from all over the world in my Facebook, and it's great to just see all these perspectives from all these different cultures and all melded together, and and I put it out there, and the response was incredible. I had people messaging me from all over the world saying, "Thank you for opening up about that." It's I ended up going and talking to someone about something that has been bugging me or this kind whatever, and but the thing that kind of got to me about it, a lot of people in the comments were saying, "Oh, this was so brave that you would talk about this, and well done for opening up. It's so brave." And I tried to explain to him like it's not. I don't see it as being brave like at all. To me, there's no difference talking about my depression or suicide than telling you what I had for lunch this morning. I do not have a filter where, oh, I can't say that. There's I c- I'll literally talk about anything whatsoever, any aspect of my life, any aspect of my experience, because it is just experience at the end of the day. And with people saying it was brave, that other people that are maybe going through some stuff like some dark times, they might see that and think, oh, well, I don't feel brave, so I won't be able to talk. You must be brave in order to talk about your feelings openly and this kind of stuff. You don't. Just trick your mind into like just downplaying it. And that's that's the most important thing. Um, when people say you should talk about your problems, and you should unload your problems onto someone else and discuss them with someone and that kind of stuff, it's not with the intention or the hope that if I tell this person my problem, they're going to be able to solve it. It's literally the act of talking about the problem reduces it so much. Like if you're facing a problem and you let it build up in your mind, it becomes this big monster, and you feed it your imagination and you build it up and you think of all the bad things that could possibly come out of it, and all the ways it could possibly go wrong. But as soon as you verbalize that and send it out into the world, it diminishes it in such a way that it becomes manageable, and it removes the power that it had because you've spoken it and it's gone and it's out there now, and you no longer need to um, worry about what could happen or might not happen because it's happened. And 99 times out of 100, the situation is never as bad as you think it will be. People won't react as harshly as you think they might. Like people won't like hold you accountable, or like a lot of times people blame themselves for things that are just not their fault at all, but they're too close to it to see that. And then by talking about it and giving someone, letting someone else in on the problem, their perspective, they might be able to say, yeah, but hold on, yes, that happened, but at the time, this also happened, so there was no way you could have stopped that. There was no way you could have prevented that. It was not your fault. And it might be that other person's perspective that makes the initial person think, yeah, you know what, that maybe wasn't my fault. Um, like I realized not too long ago that I've basically spent my entire adult life overcoming fear in some shape or form, like dealing with demons that had haunted me for years, and I finally found the strength to actually deal with that. That's more emotional fear that I'm talking about, but also through training parkour and free running, overcoming that fear of imminent death, like doing a roof jump with a massive gap between it, you could die. And your brain is hardwired for survival. Your brain does not want you standing on the edge of a roof about to jump to another one. That's why when you're standing on the edge of cliffs, you get weak knees and that kind of stuff. That's your body telling you you might die if you don't back away. So to train your mind to overcome that embedded, primal instinct to not jump and to force yourself to jump, to overcome that, it's something that has translated to every aspect of my life. Like when I first started getting into acting, um, I was on a casting site and there was a casting call looking for like bare bum butlers and like literally just wearing like an apron, no thong, no nothing, like an apron and bollock naked underneath it. And I saw the ad and they were saying like if you're outgoing and bubbly and this could be the job for you, and you were doing like hen parties and all that kind of stuff. And I saw the post and I thought there is no way I could possibly do that job. Like I've got an all right physicality, but I thought there's no way I am charismatic enough. There's no way I'm confident enough to do that job. So I applied for it and I got the job. And I remember the first gig, it was a house party, sorry, a hen party, and they were having like pre-drinks in the house and they wanted, a bare bum butler to come out and serve them drinks and that kind of stuff. And my brother had ran me over to the gig and I was sitting outside and I was like, dude, I don't think I can do this. I mean, never mind butterflies in my stomach, this was seagulls, because I literally had to go in and entertain a house of like 15, 16 half pissed fucking hen party going. And I thought I was about to get tore to shreds, but I went in and I just took a deep breath at the door. I chapped that door and I went in and I just let it happen and I just became who I needed to be in that moment to see that through. And and it's things like that that have taken me to places that I never thought I would be. Like it popped up as a memory on Facebook the other day. I was watching Game of Thrones for the first time, like 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember watching that show, thinking, "Oh, it'd be cool to be in a show like that, the fantasy show and the outfits and that kind of stuff." And I ended up working on it, and I ended up getting to play like 7 different characters. I was a Knight of the Vale, I was a battlement archer, I was a Stark archer, I got to play a white, and then I got to play Golden Company, and like I was featured on screen. Like, and again, always remember, none of this should have happened in my eyes. I shouldn't be here. Every day since then has just been a treasure, and I just want to share with people my perspective, my little slice of life. And if other people look at that and they get something from it, if they get any kind of motivation, any kind of inspiration, even one person, then it was worth it. And if not, it will just stand as a chronicle of my time. Like I used to keep a journal and I love stream of consciousness unloading, but it's hard to do when you're writing because you need to write, and each word takes a little second, and it gives your brain time to edit things and that kind of stuff. But I don't want that. I just want the most honest, open delivery and narration of my life possible. And one of the things that shaped my thinking quite a lot lately is I was watching a guy called Jason Silva, who's an incredible guy. You should watch his videos on YouTube. And he was talking about this concept that they have in Mexican culture, and they have this concept of in life you go through 3 deaths, and your first death is the day that you realize that one day you will die. Like whatever age you are, when you realize that one day you will be dead and you will pass on to whatever that may be. Your second death is your physical death, the day you die, heart attack, whatever, the day that you shuffle off this mortal coil. Now, the third death, and the one that like just blew my mind, the third death is the last time that someone speaks your name. Now, really think about that because I'd never thought about that before, Like, you think when you die, that's you dead, but you will live on after that. People will tell stories of you, you know. But how far will those stories go? How far will your influence be? How long after your death will you continue to live? And I was talking to my mum about this, and like I didn't know my grand's mum's name, you know, um, and like my mum, she didn't know her grand's mum's name, so that's generations that are gone now. And like you can look it up, you can go on ancestry.com or whatever, and you know those people will be like spoken about again, and they'll get to live again for a brief second. But I guess it comes down to the legacy that you leave. I mean, if you look at guys like, say, Plato, like I don't know how long ago Plato was around. I think it was like 1,000 years or whatever. But think of all the people between Plato and now that have lived and died, and no one knows their name. And they might have been great people, they might have done incredible things, but no one knows their name. And in this age now, this age of technology, this age of vlogging and YouTube and social media, we have the tools to chronicle almost every aspect of our lives. And that's something that I want to utilize. Like, if I have grandkids 20 years from now, and say I end up going senile and, or anything could happen, they'll be able to watch these videos and know exactly who I was, what I done, how I done it, why I done it, and they might get something from that. And if some random person does, then cool. Like, I'm 32 years old now. I live in Scotland. I'm an actor, a writer, director, a freerunner, a musician, a graffiti artist. I consider myself a very spiritual person. Um, like one of the greatest quotes I heard about spirituality is, "Religion is the belief in someone else's experience, whereas spirituality is a belief in your own experience." And that's one of the biggest driving forces in my life, is to have my own experience, not for my experience to be shaped by tradition or expectations of others, or, oh, well, none of my friends are doing this, so I can't do it. If I want to do something and no one else will do it with me, I'll go and do it on my own. And by doing that thing, I'll meet people that are already doing it, you know? Um, and yeah, I'm just going to use this podcast. And the good thing about podcasting is, as well, or this kind of format, I can sit and talk about stuff, but I can also show stuff. Like the other night, I'd done a jump for the first time, so I can put that in here. Boop. Um, like I used to vlog when I was engaged. The first 2 years of the relationship, it was like long distance. So I just used to make vlogs just for Rachel. I would upload them privately to YouTube. Just if I was out training, if I was out on set, whatever I was doing, I would just make vlogs. So, if I'm going out training, I can make a vlog. I can come home, talk about it in this setting, and then I can link you to the training. You can see how I went about my day, the processes behind the jump or whatever. And yet there's just so many things that I've done, and places that I've been, and things that have shaped my thought process to make my life pretty unique. And I want to share that with so many people. I honestly feel so many people hold themselves back, and it's kind of cliched when people that have made it in whatever, they say, "Oh, well, if I can do it, anyone can do it." And that's what one of the messages I want to get through in this podcast. But I want to show people me doing it. Like right now, I'm not booked for any upcoming gigs. Like I'm living with my mum. I was living in Northern Ireland, had to move back in with my mum. Um, like I ride motorbikes. I don't have a bike right now. Like I'm literally starting off from scratch. Like this podcast, I was putting this podcast off for so long because I kept thinking, oh well, I'm not ready. I'll need to get a new camera. I'll need to get like one of the podcast microphones, on the pole, and move it around. And like I decided to just go ahead with it anyway. Like right now I'm filming on my phone. I'm using like a headphone mic into the computer, but you can still see me and you can still hear me. So I'm still podcasting. And if I start doing it now and iron out the kinks and get better at it, then by the time I get the nice camera, by the time I get the nice microphone, it will just improve what I'm already doing. Like you can wait around. Like if I was waiting to get a new camera and to get a microphone, I might be waiting another month, another 6 months, another year. Might never happen. But if I do it today, then that's number one done. Like episode 1 done in the can, I'll put it up. And then episode 2, it's probably going to be better. Episode 3, probably going to be better again. But I would never be able to make that progress if I didn't take that initial step. And that's all this is. And it might be rambly. You might be sitting there like, what's this guy thinking about? This might have made no sense up to this point. But the next one should be better, hopefully. So yeah, it's like over half an hour for the first one. I was just going to make this like a half-hour intro kind of video. But yeah, that's we'll call this episode 1. And from here on in, I'm going to try and focus on specific topics, be it depression, be it suicidal thoughts and tendencies, how they eat away at you, and how to overcome them. Like one of the things that really helped me through my depression was to remember that I'm still alive right now. So many people have died, so many people that have got more potential than me to do whatever, that could possibly have reached more people, or invented something groundbreaking, or like and they're just gone, they're just dead, but we're still here. You, me, everyone watching this, everyone out there right now, we're all alive at this moment, and that within itself is beautiful. As long as you've still got a beating heart, the potentiality that you possess is infinite. Like at this moment right now, you can stand up and you can start singing, or you can dance, or you could, go out and fucking jump in puddles and have a great time. You can literally do whatever you want because you are still alive. You have the choice to do it. You could sell everything and move to Thailand if you wanted and live on a beach. Any dream that you want, you can go and follow it because you are still alive. You still have the possibility, and any one of us could die at literally any moment. I could wait until I get a nice camera to shoot my podcast, but I might get hit with a bus tomorrow. This might be the only one I ever get to do, but I've still done it. So yeah, this will do for episode 1. If you liked it, let me know. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I'm going to get into it. I'm just going to be as open and as honest as I possibly can about any and all aspects of my life, and I think it's a really healthy thing to do for me, more than anything else, because it's catharsis. It's, if I can sit here and talk about my problems and release them, and it helps me to overcome them, then I'm going to do that regardless. But if other people like it and want to see more, then that will just motivate me to do it even more. Yeah, so welcome to the life of Lee, and we'll see where it goes from here. Thanks for stopping by. It's been good talking, and I'll see you in the next episode. Yeah, I do that all the time, like all the time. Just